So we have to high five to get our marker. I think we did it. Did you get it?
Yeah.
One more time.
Yeah.
Double mark, second sticks. All right. And that's the last time I'm going to direct you on how to comport yourself.
It's all good.
So we are standing here. Actually, this is a great place to start because we're standing right in the sun.
Okay.
But up there, I don't know if I can get a shot of it, is one of Austin's historic moon towers, right? The Moonlight Towers, as they're officially known.
Okay.
Famous from the Days of Confused Party at the Moon Tower. But anybody who knows Austin knows our moon towers. We're over on East 11th Street. What's the name of this neighborhood?
It's East Austin. I mean, what are they calling that? Rosewood? What is
Rosewood.
Rosewood,
yeah. East Austin, Rosewood. The state cemetery's over there. We could wander over there if we want to.
Let's do it.
You tell me, why did we end up in this neighborhood?
I just like historical places. And I think East Austin has so much history here that in some ways it's trying to be revitalized, but it has kind of been erased.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's a cool place to come and take up space because for me, you know, social justice and activism is at my heart. And so I think documenting this place while we still can, it's changed a lot.
It's changing every day.
But it's changing every day, but there's a couple of things that have remained. And so I don't know, I just enjoy being in this space.
Well, I love being in this space for two reasons. One, I live about 10 blocks that way.
Okay.
So you made it easy on me. And two, because I'm getting a chance to walk with you, somebody that I have a lot of respect for who I don't know as well as I'd like to, but I'm about to get to know you a lot better.
Okay.
And you guys out there are about to get to know our special guest a lot better because I haven't introduced him yet, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Meet Yaki Smith.
Yep.
Filmmaker, writer, director, educator,
Yep.
activist,
All of it.
published poet.
Exactly.
And
How did you dig that up?
you know, the Google took me right into the depths of your soul. Welcome to DocWalks. Ben's off on vacation with the family, and I'm walking East Austin with Yaki Smith. We're gonna point out the things that we see along the way, like this. Elon Musk is a fucking idiot.
Oh, let me get it too.
So, without any further ado,
And Elon Musk is in fact an idiot. So
Austin's own.
I agree.
Austin's own Elon Musk, a fucking idiot. Okay, let's take it to the music, Riley.
On your left.
You're listening to DocWalks with Ben and Keith. We're talking to Yaki this week because he has a new film called Cycles of Resilience,
A journey through Austin's Black history.
a journey through Austin's Black history that is about a bicycle tour of Austin's kind of cultural, historical spaces, some of which I knew well and some I didn't know.
Same here.
Yeah, and of course, you know, you've got a long background in both narrative and documentary.
Mm-hmm.
This week is Friday's Juneteenth.
Yes.
You made a film, Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom.
Yep.
Played nationally on PBS a few years back.
Yes. Still going strong.
Tell me about, like, so what you're seeing in this mural, and if anything, like, does it spark anything in relationship to what you've learned in making cycles?
Yeah, you know, I'd actually start with
Resilience?
this part right here, right? I mean, this beautiful, distinguished Black couple, right?
Yeah.
These beautiful folks on their porch, in community with one another, right? For me, when I see this, it's a reminder that, you know, East Austin at one point, it was indeed a Black community, but it was a thriving Black community, right? Obviously, you have HT here. We had our own grocery stores. We had our own doctor's offices. We had all of those things here until things were not here anymore, right? And I think that's a symptom of basically severe gentrification and displacement. That makes me think of Clarksville, right? Which, in fact, was a Black freedmen's town.
Right.
And now when you go over to Clarksville, I mean, you may have 2 or 3 Black people that actually still exist. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I feel like the same kind of thing is starting to happen here in East Austin. And so this mural reminds us what Black Austin was, what we contributed, how beautiful we were, how creative we were. When I think about the musicians there, even the people that are working on the bike. And then just, again, these people together, it reminds you that we were a thriving community. So it's both nostalgic and honestly, it can be a little bit sad, right?
Right.
To think about what was and what is no longer here. Yeah.
Well, so for people who don't know Austin well or are watching from other locales. It's worth pointing out, like we talked about, we're in East Austin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right over down that away, just past Franklin Barbecue up there on the right. You see the Texas Capitol across the way there. And what separates central Austin, where the Capitol is, and where we are in East Austin is I-35.
Yep.
Of course, I-35 opened in 1964. It was called the Interregional at the time.
But the vestiges of it, you know, kind of go back further than that, right? I mean, when you think about Austin's 1928 master plan, right?
Yeah.
Which was the plan to, in many ways, displace all of the folks, the black folks specifically, who were living in Clarksville. Well, what do? They build a highway, a street, right? And they say, okay, your kids cannot go to the school over there. They have to come across here to go to school, right? You couldn't work over there anymore, right? Because again, there was this idea that they wanted the land, but they couldn't just come and take it from you. So they had to sort of create these policy changes,
right,
in terms of sanitation, in terms of electricity, in terms of water. And it became very, very difficult for those individuals who were there to continue to live there, right? And then again, you build this highway and say, oh, I got to send my kids across this major street. Well, I don't want to do that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move closer to where their school is.
Right.
And so now that's how you end up with a lot of people who ended up in East Austin.
You get a concentration.
Yes.
And so it was basically enforced segregation through, you know, like the manipulation of zoning and financing.
Exactly.
Is redlining?
Yeah, basically. It's all redlining, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny, we just showed Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom in Cincinnati. And even sitting there and watching the film again, the same thing that happened here happened in Houston. It happened in all kinds of cities all across the country, because once you redline a place, right, you can't get loans in that place. You know, that becomes a place that is undesirable to live because, you know, now it has this stigma of potentially being violent or whatever it may be. You don't have jobs in those spaces anymore.
Yeah.
Once they're redlined, right? It's really literally a total displacement of these thriving communities, right? Who after slavery had found ways to build up all of these things. Again, educational systems, again, medical, grocery store, all the things that we had. But there was a way, again, another way to displace. And I think I-35, although great, right, it is a reminder of how a space can be redlined and how in many ways you create what we see in other places. And we've seen a black and a white district, right? That is, and like my mom used to say, we couldn't go across those tracks, right? Because we weren't allowed across those tracks. There was a track where if you go over a certain time of night, you don't know if you're gonna make it back because that's where their environment is and this is where our environment is, right? And so I think I-35 and again, many other highways across the US speak to that kind of forced displacement.
That's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, it's incredible to celebrate like the community that East Austin represented.
Yes.
But the recognition of like how it was formed and why it exists is, I don't know, it's a little bit of a complicated history here in Austin. So you take on the role of explaining a lot of that history in Cycles of Resilience. It's a film about a group of cyclists, literally bike riders, who are taking one day to ride around the city. What are some of the locations that they hit?
We went to HT, Houston-Tillotson.
Houston-Tillotson, which is one of the first historic black universities in the country.
HBCUs, again, are formed post-enslavement when people realized that there were no institutions of higher education to educate the people. Should we do it? Should we do it?
Going for it. Sorry. I always have a tendency just to walk.
Look, I lost my train of thought for a second there.
Well, and also the smell of Franklin barbecue
Right?
here.
It'll do it to you.
And I could hear the stomachs rumbling of all these people waiting in line. They've got this line system down. Look at this.
Yeah, they do, man. Look, I remember when this place was Ben's Barbecue.
It was what?
Ben's Barbecue.
Oh.
Oh, yes. This place used to be called Ben's Barbecue. It was owned by a black man.
Yeah.
Some of the best barbecue here in Austin, I believe. And he was still here when we left in 2009. And then, to be honest with you, all of a sudden, I believe I saw this place on, was it Man Eats Food? It was featured on one of those.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And then I realized, wait a minute, that's Ben's. But it's not called Ben's
Not
anymore. As you can see, people are out there with their lawn chairs just waiting, I guess, for some ribs, some chicken, whatever they're trying to get in there. which is interesting to see again how a place that had been here for so long, if you go in, you rebrand it to a certain demographic, that boom, it can become a thriving place. Because Ben's was not like that. Like, it was great food, but you never had to wait in line.
Right.
You just walk in and eat. And he was such a great man. As a matter of fact, when I was in film school, he donated food for one day of my shoot.
Thank you, Ben.
Right? Because we had, me and my wife used to go in there all the time. And so when we needed the food, we went in there and asked. I think she might have been the one to ask. And he said yes. So, yeah.
Well, all right. You started in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
You moved to Austin to go to get your MFA.
Yep.
And, a lot of guests, this is DocWalks, and we focus primarily on doc filmmakers, and you certainly made great docs. We've talked about two of them already, just briefly, Cycles of Resilience, which is your newest one,
Mm-hmm.
and Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom. But I think primarily, would you describe yourself as a scripted narrative fiction filmmaker, or are you agnostic to labels, or where do you? Because I know you've made scripted feature, you've made a lot of scripted shorts.
Yeah.
You sent me a short I want to talk to you about,
Okay.
but I want to hear your answer to my question first. Is like, if you had to label yourself, are there labels that you subscribe to that you're comfortable with?
So it's interesting you asking me this, because I need to get out of this bad habit, because I do this a lot. I stand up in front of, when I do a Q&A, and I'm like, I'm technically really not a documentary filmmaker. And the truth is, it's like, film is film.
That's right.
Right? I'm going to go with the Agnes Varda quote, right? We try to put films in labels, but like, it's a film, it's a piece of art, right? And even if it is a documentary, which, right, we sort of think of those as having this level of truth to them, which they do, but still somebody is editing it, somebody is manipulating the story, somebody is shaping the way in which you will engage with whatever subject matter that they are working in the doc. And so for me, yes, I would consider myself a narrative filmmaker, but I approach documentary in the same way as I do narrative.
Which means what to you? Yeah.
The meticulous planning. Sometimes when you do a doc, you do plan, but let's say you're documenting, someone and their story starts to change. Some people die, right? All of that. And so for me, I'm not one of those, let's just go shoot everything and then we'll find the documentary in post.
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of it, but I do think that we planned both of those documentaries pretty meticulously. We knew who we were going to interview. Obviously, the ride is controlled, so we knew exactly what the route was. We had driven it already. Talib, who actually runs a Black History bike ride and is the one who invited me on to direct it, again, he walked me through all of the locations we were going to stop at. We kind of drove the route, so we understood what we were getting ourselves into. Again, we, had a sort of a master list of all the people that we were going to interview. It felt very much like setting up a narrative film to me.
Yeah. And well, it's a complicated production plan too, because it's a massive undertaking to capture a group of people on the move.
Big time.
And there's storytelling along the way. There's action. It's a bike ride. How many cameras and how were they posted up on the bikes, and how did you capture that whole thing?
So I want to make sure I'm telling, it's been over a year. I believe there were 3 main cameras.
Okay.
So we had the drone.
Yeah.
We also had GoPros that were connected to some of the bikes. So what you're watching is sort of a combination of all of that different footage.
Right.
But again, I think very meticulously planned though, right? We knew what we were getting ourselves into.
Let's hang here in the shade for a second.
But we also, again, understood that, we could have told 4 or 5 different stories.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You shoot a document, you have all that stuff, but we decided on that story in post. So there is a level of still rewriting, just like you would with a narrative film. You're rewriting the story in post-production, right?
Well, I wanted to stop here in the shade, one, because shade is a premium right now.
Right, exactly.
It's June in Texas, and it's been a milder summer and a wet spring and summer than usual, but it's still hot and sweaty out here.
Yeah, it is.
So I appreciate it.
It's all beautiful.
But I also want to stop here before we got too far, because right over my shoulder here is one of the stops on the Cycles of Resilience tour. Yes. It's, I think, an important venue here in Austin, and it's worth going to take a look at before we get too far away.
I agree.
Talk to me about what we're walking towards here.
Yeah, so we are walking towards the Victory Grill, which also has a nightclub in the back. So you have a restaurant in the front, you have a nightclub in the back. And I couldn't tell you when it opened, but it's been around. Maybe the mile marker will tell us, but it's been around here for a very, very long time. And is it 1945? 45. Oh wow, right?
During World War II, segregation prevented African American servicemen from enjoying most civilian restaurants, recreational facilities. In an effort to address this issue, Austin civic leaders urged the city through its Negro War Recreation Council, the Recreation Council, to provide recreational sites for servicemen on leave from the military posts. Johnny Holmes responded to this need when he opened the original Victory Grill, aka the Victory Cafe, the celebration of VJ Day, Victory over Japan, August 15th, 1945, in a converted ice house on East 11th Street. Sweet.
This is it. I mean, and it's interesting though, when we were filming the doc, we actually shot an interview here, and just hearing the history of this place and how, again, it was the epicenter of sort of Black creativity at one point in Austin, Texas, right? All of the jazz and blues acts would come through, some of the newer R&B acts would come through, and it's just been that kind of establishment for a very, very long time. And I'm excited that it is still here, because a lot of other things that were literally on this street are gone. You know, the Chitlin Circuit is really birthed out of this idea that, you know, Black performers were not allowed to perform in certain spaces. Some of them were, but majority of them were not allowed to go into some of these white establishments.
Yeah.
So they had to create their own establishments.
Let's take a look at the murals on the side of this place.
And basically they had to create their own way, you know? And out of that desire comes places like this, which, you know, if you go into Houston, there's places like this. San Antonio, there's places like this. It's everywhere, you know?
Yeah. Howdy.
How you doing, man?
You painting today? What are you painting?
Finishing up a couple of cowgirls that I started, and I just finished on Zan. I did a Bass Reeves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's from an original photo, an actual photo.
Oh, that's really nice.
And that one I finished, took me 2 weeks. I finished that one about 3 days ago.
You selling the Bass Reeves?
Huh?
You selling the Bass Reeves?
Yes, I am.
How much is it?
Well, if you can't tell nobody how much I
So he has to cut that out.
Bring it on over. Bring it on over, if you don't mind.
I don't.
How long will you be here?
I'm here all the time.
Okay. Well, we gonna walk. I'll hit it once we come back from walking.
Alrighty.
But I want to get it from you.
We're gonna come back and pick up this
Yeah.
Bass Reeves. What's your name, sir?
My name is Marshall Fabella.
Marshall. Great to meet you. I'm Keith.
Keith, very pleased to meet you, my
This
brother.
is Yaki.
Yaki.
Yeah, Keith,
Yeah.
very pleased to meet you, my
Nice
brother.
to meet you.
Yes, I'm glad this is going to a home. Man.
How did Victory Grill become your studio?
I was a chef here, working for about a year, and then I decided to get back into my art, so I just combined the two together. Like, I'm not working right now, so I look at my art, and I find that by standing out in front, like sitting out here, I don't go like, hey, would you like some nice artwork or something? I just sit here and work on something, and people come by and they buy some nice.
Yeah.
And I've sold more here than any location around Austin, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to go to Congress. I used to go to the drag up north, east side, like over there East First. I still call it East First. But it's just the community. There's a really good sense of community here. And the people, once they got to see me and know me, I would talk with them and stuff. Next thing you know, I would make something. They're like, oh, I want that one.
Yeah.
And then I do commission work too. So
Show me that Bass Reeves. What do you know about Bass Reeves?
Bass Reeves was the first black U.S. deputy marshal back in 1800, well, late 1800s. And he became friends with, family with the Cree, the Seminole, and the Comanches. So he was like family to them. So he was able to bring the settlers through their territory. And he was making thousands of dollars, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, back in the 1890s, he arrested 3,000 people. And he was known to be very serious about his job. And he actually went and hunted down his son, who had committed murder, and arrested him. He had a warrant for his arrest.
Gee.
And Bass Reeves went and got him. But that's about it, all I know about.
All right, that's plenty.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it sounds like we'll be back.
All right.
Well, that's exciting.
It is.
Nice grab there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we were before we, one of the things I noticed on these episodes, and if people are still paying attention, it's not because of me, because I feel like I do a terrible job of hosting these conversations. I skitter from subject to subject like an ADHD rattled brain.
It's all good. I don't mind it.
Like, ooh, flowers. We were talking about Agnes Varda and film as, you know, an art form that shouldn't necessarily be labeled. And I'm glad I asked you if there were any labels that you put on yourself, because I'm always a little suspicious, because I'm not comfortable really calling myself any one thing.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, what do you think drives you as an artist, as you like seek to clarify your identity as a creator?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I had to come to terms with too is just like allowing myself to do all kinds of creative work. Because I think for a while I just was like, okay, Key, only thing you need to do are these like social justice pieces, right? Which I'm always going to do those sort of activist, artivist types pieces. But I do think there's something about stretching myself and doing something completely different at times. So like I'm going to be directing a multicam live audience television show, Paramount Plus show at the end of July.
Okay.
It's
Tell me more about that.
comedy.
Yeah.
It's called The Miss Pat Show. Comedy, very raw and raucous comedy, but I've never done multicam.
Yeah.
You know, I shadowed last year on the show, but I want to do this because one, I like the show, but also it's going to stretch me creatively, right? And it's going to just add another sort of thing that I could put on my CV when somebody's looking for multicam. Guess who's done that? Me. I think for me, I'm just looking for a challenge. I am looking for the heart of a story, right? It does have to speak to me. And it does have to, in some ways, speak to some of the things that are going on in society. I just don't want to do like fluff stuff, right?
Right.
I really do believe that as an artist, I can use my art to start conversations, to make change in the world, right? And so I'm always thinking about anything that I get into, is there a possibility for this particular project to actually do those things? I didn't have to really sit and question, why am I getting involved in this at all? And again, that can take a documentary form, that can take short narrative, feature narrative, music video, because I do think that every story has a certain medium that it wants to be told in, right? I think there are certain things that have to be documentaries,
Yeah.
right? And I think there are certain things that really have to be narrative. And again, that could be narrative short, that could be a micro drama, whatever it is, because those things may not necessarily work in documentary form, and vice versa, right? I think there's some documentaries that may not ever work in narrative form, right? And so again, for me, it's just about challenging myself, finding projects that I'm passionate about, and really finding projects that I feel like add to the world in a positive way, right?
To it. Let's head this way, because this is. Are you down for a walk through the cemetery?
Why not?
Why not, right?
We doing it now.
This is the Texas State
I'm not scared of ghosts.
All right, so we're coming up here on the Texas State Cemetery, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know the exact history of the space. I know this is where you'll find Ann Richards and, I don't know, probably Sam Houston or some other.
So this is a cemetery for like Texas dignitaries?
Yeah, the
Okay.
Texas dignitaries and other assorted rich white people is my guess. That's what I was going to say, is I don't know.
Yeah, you might have to pay a big amount to be buried in.
I'm not sure how it works,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a beautiful space.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit like that famous shot from The Third Man, or the end of The Long Goodbye over here.
Let me get the other angle of it there.
There you go.
Hold on. There we go.
There's a long goodbye.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I've ever actually
Every day.
been in this cemetery. Obviously, ride by it all the time, but I've never actually taken a walk through here.
Yeah. Well, there's a different history doc, I think, that
Yeah.
you were just saying, like, social activism is at the core of a lot of what you do, and even though it doesn't have to define you or drive every creative decision you make, I don't know what kind of life you could have if every decision was driven by the need to activate audiences, right? Sometimes you just have to activate your own creative spirit.
Indeed. Yeah, I think any work of artists, I think for me, first cathartic for me as the artist, right?
Okay.
That there's something that I've been wrestling with. There's a subject I've been wrestling with. There's a character or a person that I met. And there's just something that's so intriguing about them that quite literally I'm thinking about them, dreaming about them. It starts there because there's something about when you say this notion of like your spiritual creativity, I do believe that as artists, we are also like very, very in tune with the spirit, because that's what tells us what to make and what not to make. You know, we could say, oh, it's just what I like, but I think it's more than what you like. I think for me, this is just how I think about it. It's attached to your soul, right?
Yep.
Because there are some things that I'll write down and it won't be until 5 years later that they come into being, but I had to get them out. I had to write them down because there was something about it again that first compelled me, and then there was something about it that just arrested me, and then there's another thing about it that would not let me go until I actually brought it to fruition. That's how I think about my creativity.
I'm not that far off from you on that. I'll be honest with you. Like there's a thing that's happened to me several times in the edit room when I'm working with old footage sometimes. Sometimes it's footage that I shot a year ago. You know, it takes a while to get to the edit process on stuff, or the edit process can spread out over months and years.
Mm-hmm.
Or pulling out like an old hard drive or an old tape, like real old, 5, 10, 15 years older, and stick it in, and you're watching a piece of almost raw footage unfold, and I'll see something and I'm compelled to make a comment about, typically critical of my camera work, and then a moment later hear me in that moment a year ago or 5 years ago make the exact same comment.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize like, oh, we're hardwired for this, right? We come into this world with an identity, we adjust it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
we're tweaking, but who we are and what we express and how we see the world is kind of baked into who we are.
Yeah.
And it comes across in our work. There's Stephen F. Austin buried right over there. Or at least a statue of him.
Oh, I see it, okay. Maybe.
Let's go check it out.
Let's see. But yeah, I mean, I believe that. I mean, obviously we evolve, we change, we sort of add new ideas, right, to our creative repertoire just based upon the interactions that we've had. But I agree with you that at our core, we already know the types of work that not only attracts us, but the types of work that we feel like we will be compelled to make, right?
Look at this guy over here, Earthman.
Earthman, who is that?
I don't know, you gotta love somebody named Earthman. And I mean this with all respect.
Well, we walking over these people's permanent home, but okay.
I think they're okay with it, don't you?
I
the man's name is Earthman, for Christ's sake. Like he's gonna embrace. Look,
this is Earthman's final resting place.
I don't know. This is a first on DocWalks.
Oh wow, that's new, 2024.
Oh well, here's to you,
Legislature
Mr.
attorney,
Earthman.
businessman, and deacon. Yeah, I don't know this guy.
He was a deacon.
James
And his wife is.
Bradshaw Earthman.
She's still with us. They're just prepping.
Wow.
Okay. Let's find. There's Stephen F. up there, the big old. He's pointing. I'm pointing at him. I hope it's okay for us to be walking through.
It's probably not, but we in here now.
We're in it now. Oh, there's Bill Wittliff.
Oh wow, okay.
Bill Wittliff, the writer of Lonesome Dove, the miniseries, right? Barbarossa,
Wow.
The Cowboyed Way, producer of Red-Headed Stranger, and director. Wow, Perfect Storm, Honeysuckle Rose, Black Stallion. Bill Wittliff's got an incredible collection down at Texas State in San Marcos. It's a great archive.
I don't think I knew he wrote The Devil's Backbone.
No, and
I
The
wasn't aware
Sinkhole
of
and
that.
The Fork.
Uh,
All right, we're learning. Oh, wow. Sarah Weddington. Sarah Weddington is a giant in Texas history, and I'm curious if you could tell where she's rolling over in that grave right now. Sarah Weddington is the attorney who brought the Roe versus Wade case to the Supreme Court. And what a powerhouse she was.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at what's written on her tombstone. I mean, it's all the things. Professor, advocate for women.
You can see where people have placed these
Yeah.
stones at the base of her.
She would be unhappy right now.
Yeah, this is not the
Very
moment in
much
time
so.
to represent. But I like that she's right here,
Yeah.
2 spots over
From
from our city's namesake,
Exactly.
Stephen F. Austin. I don't know. He looks a lot like Abraham Lincoln. I never knew that. I don't know that much about Stephen F. Austin.
I don't know much about him either.
He's the father of Texas, they say here. Born in Virginia, died in Brazoria County, Texas, 1836. Wise, gentle, courageous, and patient, he was the founder of a mighty commonwealth. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, SFA. Nice work by Pompeo Capini, the sculptor.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we are both filmmakers who have spent a lot of time kind of like digging into history. And what you find when you dig into history is that, one, you got to have a sense of humor about the past, because there's so many tragedies and there's so many traumas and there's so many injustices that stand out. But there's, great humanity at the same time. And I think nobody represents that more than our friend right here, Barbara Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting thinking about, kind of going back to what you said about history and digging into history. It's both enlightening, right? Obviously, because, you're learning something, so you're illuminated by that knowledge. But it can also be, kind of devastating too, right? Because you begin to find out things about people that you just didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's sometimes the danger, right? But also the necessity of it all.
Right.
Because when I think about right now, this notion of, Texas wanting to basically just rewrite history in terms of like textbooks, book bans, what we can teach and not teach, what we can say and not say. It's like, that's why this history is so important, right? Regardless of how painful it is, regardless of how sometimes contradicting it might be, right? It's necessary that we know it and we understand it. Because without that, then you have people who can rewrite it, and if we're not knowledgeable about it, we'll just believe whatever it is that they tell us.
That's right.
And I think that's the dangerous thing that I feel like is happening right now.
It is a dangerous and challenging time right now for people who are awake and paying attention in Texas.
Yeah.
Because the people who aren't paying attention are letting the rewrite kind of happen broadly, right?
Exactly.
Here in Austin, the public schools are in peril financially.
Big time.
And
how many did they close? 9 or 10?
Something right around there. And I think they just discovered that they had another $47 million shortfall that they didn't even recognize. And so the state government is threatening to come in and take over the public schools. And of course, that's run by Greg Abbott, who...
It's gonna be a disaster.
Yeah, I don't have any respect for his take on what public education should be.
Yeah.
And of course, even the university. I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble. You're on faculty over there. But there's some questionable things happening at the university every day right now.
Oh, big time. I mean, I'll say it. I mean, not just questionable, but violent.
Yeah.
Intellectually violent. Because, again, back to what I was saying earlier, there is this sort of fear of people really, really learning the true history, as they keep saying. Well, that's not the real history. And it's like, yes, it is, right? Just because we've learned something in a particular way for most of our lives, right, it doesn't mean that it was right. And so I think it is necessary, again, that we do the digging. And I think institutions of higher education right now, they are trying to limit the digging, when in fact, that's the whole point of creating a university system and creating tenure, right? So that we could have free thought, right? Oh, wow.
Said Benson.
Wow. That's awesome. I didn't know he was buried out here.
Yeah. That's a sad one. He's not much older than me. Well, this exact subject we're talking about.
Okay.
About intellectual manipulation of facts and institutional, like, authoritarian rule over intellectual thought and teaching is very much at the heart of one of your newest films.
Yes.
Angels Watching Over Us.
Yeah, Angels Watching Over Me.
Angels Watching Over Me.
Yeah. You watched it?
Yeah, you sent it to me. Thank you. I don't think it's out yet.
It's not.
Well, I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Okay.
Because I'm going to give people something to look forward to here.
All right.
You know, look, if you want to get to know, and I hope you do, get to know Yaki's filmography, you go back to 2012 and watch his feature, Wolf.
Yes.
You can watch the 2 docs we've already talked about, Cycles of Resilience, which is, out on the festival circuit right now. And of course, Juneteenth, Faith of Freedom is available on pbs.org.
Yes.
But you have a new short film that you shared with me, and it's really enthralling because it is the perfect mix of doc and scripted. It defies labeling. You could call it hybrid, I guess, but why call it anything except what it is, which is kind of a journey into the heart of this complicated subject of people rewriting history and of kind of authorities putting educators under their thumb. The short opens up with an incredibly edited montage of recent and current day news and media reports on racial tensions and the state of the world in peace and war all over the country and around the world.
Yeah.
And then we meet a character. I don't know that we ever catch her name.
In the script, she's called Mona, but now she's just the professor.
The professor.
Yeah, yeah.
She's living through almost a torturous interrogation.
Yeah, she is.
Being forced to change her approach, being forced to take on a new way of educating her students, and really having, you know, her kind of life's essence challenged.
Yeah.
What inspired this film? I mean, I think it's hard to figure out what inspired this film, but was there a moment for you that said, I need to take on this issue?
There were two moments, actually. Okay. And the interesting thing is they happened years apart, right? So I think the first thing that I was very, very interested in is this video that Paula White, who is Trump's spiritual advisor, that she created. This was, I believe, during the first or second term. I can't even remember when it was. But she's basically, you know, praying over the White House, praying over Trump. The irony of her being Trump's spiritual advisor is a lot of people don't know that 20 years ago, Paula White was like the white female preacher who was basically invited into all of the black spaces.
Okay.
So she was, I mean, people would pack out, I can't say stadiums, but, you know, churches, 5, 6, 7,000 people would show up, wait in line to hear Paula White speak.
She represented a bridge between kind of spiritual communities.
Yeah. We went to hear her preach. We loved her. We supported her. To now be aligned with this administration, which is really antithetical to everything that I consider being a Christian to be, right? And so she was doing this video where she was praying for Trump, back to that, and she starts saying this, you know, I can feel the angels from Africa. They're coming to save Trump. They're coming to help him win the election.
Oh, the African angels are coming for Trump?
They're coming for Trump. That's what she thought, okay? So immediately I was like, okay, the audacity of this white minister to believe that even unto death, if you think about it, because when she's talking about these African angels, what she's really referring to are individuals who met a watery grave during the Middle Passage. That's either by suicide, by being intentionally thrown overboard, by being starved. All the types of atrocities were happening in these vessels. And a lot of bodies actually ended up in these oceans, which ironically, in some ways, changed the ecosystem of the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, man, that's who she's really talking about. She's literally talking about exhuming the bodies and the spirits of these individuals who were killed in the most heinous way.
Right.
So that's that. And I was like, okay, let me put that here. And then all the things that are happening started to happen. I was an associate dean of diversity, equity, and inclusion for 3 years.
Does that position
no longer exist anymore,
Yeah.
right? A lot of the DEI efforts that we had implemented, all are gone. Literally whole website's gone, right? And then even beyond that, you started to see that there were instructors, professors, some tenured track, some just adjuncts coming in on these maybe year-long. It's like you start seeing professors literally being fired. And so for me, I was like, I want to take this idea of this attack on, again, intellectual freedom and curiosity and really freedom of speech. And I then want to couple it with this notion that of anyone that could be called, we're calling these black angels to, again, help us continue this deep repression that is happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Regression.
Yeah, and regression, yeah. And so, boom, I was like, okay, how do I merge these two things together? And the first thought that came to my mind was, okay, this, again, the professor, she's teaching these radical views. They're accusing her of, in some ways, inciting violence and basically almost being like the ringleader of student protests on campus because she's secretly meeting with students and telling them their rights. That coupled with, well, who would save her if she was indeed kidnapped, right? And out of that came the script.
These angels.
These angels. And also, I'm a deeply spiritual person. And so I do believe in like the spiritual realm, meaning that we're not just fighting a physical battle, we're also fighting a spiritual battle right now. And so I think you have to attack it from both ways. There's the spiritual part of it that must be attacked in a certain way, but there's also the real physical quality of it all that also has to be attacked in a certain way.
How does communing with an audience as a filmmaker play a role in that spiritual battle, like in your role in that spiritual battle?
You make a film, it speaks to you. Yeah, obviously you've shown it to some other people, but honestly, until you get it out into the world and on the film festival circuit, you really don't know its impact.
Right.
Right? You really don't know if people are going to dig it the way in which you dug it, or if they're really going to understand all of the small, intricate details that you're putting into it. And so I think when you have a film, and we haven't screened at a festival yet, but when you have any of my work, I'm even thinking about Wolf. When we would screen that work, it was so interesting because there were people in the audience who would stand up and say, I've never said this publicly, but I was sexually abused as a child.
Well,
and I was told to stay quiet, and I was told that I shouldn't say anything, right? And so I feel like for me, it went beyond you just watching some entertaining 90-minute film. It went to this sort of spiritual connection between those who had been traumatized.
yeah.
And in some ways, when they watched the film, it ignited something in them that allowed them to be liberated from that thing, and they felt like they had to speak for
Well,
the
you
first time.
created space where vulnerability was welcome.
Yes.
And that's exactly, when I asked that question, that's exactly the kind of feeling that I felt in the room that drives me as a storyteller and makes me want to share my work with people. It makes me want to have the discussion afterwards. I was very fortunate years ago to meet, legendary filmmaker Barbara Kopple.
Yeah.
And she came to a screening of my film Tower. We were at a filmmaker brunch at the Savannah Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I walked in the door and she said, what are you doing here? I thought your film is screening in 15 minutes. And I said, well, it is, but I'm gonna be there for the Q&A, but I thought I'd come to the filmmaker brunch and meet all y'all. She's like, no, I'm just grabbing a plate because I'm gonna go see your film.
That's awesome.
And you need to come see it with me. Well, I'm not gonna say no to Barbara Kopple. So I was like,
Exactly.
sure. So I went and saw the film with her. And as we were walking to the theater, she looked at me and she said, you need to never pass up an opportunity to watch your film in the room with an audience, no matter how many times you've seen it, no matter how sick of it you might be at that moment, because this is what it's all about.
Yep.
It's about the energy of this room and the connection that you were seeking when you made the film. This is where it exists.
Yes.
And we watched that film and she reached over and she held my hand through most of the movie. One of those moments I'm never gonna forget. It's very easy when you're a filmmaker to get kind of bogged down by the fatigue, right? But if you have a chance to make that connection with an audience, that truly is what it's all about.
That is what it's about.
And when you say you're a spiritual person, like to me, that's where the spirit of art and filmmaking transcends the budget, the challenge of the workday, the difficult phone calls, the collaborative issues, right? That moment in the room.
Big time. Film is really in my opinion, it's a community-oriented art, not only in the way in which you make it, because it takes a community to do it, but also the idea that you are going to take something that you made, export it from your laptop, and then screen it for a broader audience. That's what this thing is really all about, because you made it so that people could interrogate it, so people could interact with it, so people could be touched by it, liberated from actually experiencing whatever it is that you put in front of them. And hopefully that actually gives new life to the work, right? Because I do think that word of mouth and audiences sort of talking about the work, that's what keeps a film going.
Yeah.
Right? A film can be going 10, 20, 30 years after it was made because an audience says there's something in this film that even though it was made in 1970, it's still speaking to me now, right? And I think for me, those are the types of works that I want to make, that even when I'm long gone, that people will pop it in. I guess we won't have DVD. I don't know what we're going to have in. Right?
Holograms.
Holograms.
Hologram
right?
inside your eyeball.
There we go. They'll hologram it up and they'll still watch it and still feel that thing that I felt when I was making it and the thing that I felt when I started to show it to audiences when I was actually in the room.
Right.
That's what this thing is all about. In my mind, if we're not thinking about it that way, I think we're doing a disservice to the art. We're not honoring the art, and I don't think we're always honoring the audience and the experience that they will indeed have with either a good film and a bad film, right?
Right.
But there is an experience that you have when you consume a piece of media. Because again, it's connecting with you on a cellular level, man. I know I've watched films and they sat with me for years and years after I watched them. Because there was something about the message there that spoke to me and literally planted a seed inside of me and it just would not let me go.
Right.
And I think for me, that's the sign of really, really, really good art.
I'm going to come back to that because that's how we end our conversations, is talking about the films that inspire.
Okay.
But this week is Juneteenth.
Yep.
We're walking through East Austin. We just right over here by the Victory Grill, and there are signs all around town that say Juneteenth parade, expect delays.
Mm-hmm.
You made Juneteenth Faith and Freedom. What did you learn making that film, and what do you hope audiences get from it?
It's interesting. So I'm from Texas, as we already said. And so Juneteenth is not new to me, right? Grew up celebrating Juneteenth. We had parties that were centered around Juneteenth. There were parades in like San Antonio and Houston that we would attend. It was something that we talked about very extensively in terms of what is the significance of Juneteenth? Why is it necessary that we continue to celebrate it? Why is it necessary that we continue to invoke the names of the folks that actually were freed or emancipated on June 19th, 1865? And so when it becomes a federal holiday, it's not new to me, right?
Right.
I'm excited that this is happening, but I've been celebrating this my whole life. But for me, the exciting thing about it is that now there are people who didn't know what Juneteenth was, had no clue of its significance, maybe kind of heard about it, but thought it was maybe a myth of some sort. Now they're able to learn more about it. They're able to go and celebrate it. And they're really, really able to sort of honor those who were emancipated on that day. I thought I knew everything about Juneteenth, right? But when we did that film, there was so much that I learned, right? I didn't know that there were 6,000 soldiers that showed up on Galveston Island, 4,000 of those black soldiers, to actually liberate and emancipate these enslaved people whose sort of masters had decided that they weren't letting them go.
Right.
I don't care what the law says, we don't have nothing to do with that. Can you imagine a scene if you are on a plantation, 4,000 black soldiers come in with guns demanding that you be set free? I mean, that was probably life-changing for those people, not only in terms of being emancipated, but actually seeing that, oh wow, as a black person, I can be in the military, I can have a certain level of power that can be liberating for my people. So I think learning that was interesting. I think also just meeting all of these individuals, specifically in Galveston, who can recall, this is where my family was enslaved, because they've been on the island since then. This is where we went after we were liberated. Oh, this is the store that my grandpa opened, that we had it in the family for 60 years until it closed down. Oh, this is the house that great-great-great-grandma lived in post-emancipation, right? To know that there are individuals who know their history that deeply and that intricately, that also was eye-opening to me, because honestly, it made me have a desire to even learn more about my own family, because there's some things I just don't know, right? Because a lot of our history has been lost, and that's by design, by the way, right? It was eye-opening for me. Again, I think it's just like right now, we can fall into complete despair, or we can try to find joy in this very despairing moment that we have found ourselves in. And I think just because we find joy doesn't mean that we have to still overcome the despair. And I think even for us right now, that's the thing that I'm wrestling with, right? I have a 10-year-old, and to be honest with you, I'm in my mind saying, what kind of world am I leaving him? What kind of world am I leaving him? When I die, I'm thinking about even things just like global warming, man, right? Will New Orleans actually still be in existence in 20 years? I don't know, right? Is it gonna start getting so hot where we're not gonna be able to come outside before the sun goes down? At this point, there are so many things that are happening that are gonna be detrimental to humanity as a whole. Yet, knowing that I still have to find joy in my heart, because again, if I don't find that joy, I will just be in despair every day, all day. And I don't think that's a way to live.
We're getting towards the end of our walk, and I want to ask if you have a practice that you can share with the audience, a practice of accessing creativity or vetting project ideas, trying to figure out what's a fleeting thought and what's something worth dedicating years of your life to and building a team around.
I don't think any thought is fleeting, right? And the reason I say that is because if I think it, there's something about it that, again, I'm wrestling with. So I write everything down.
Okay.
I believe ideas wrestle with you, right? It's like a pregnant woman, right? I think there's some things that when they're in you, you got to get them out or they'll kill you, quite literally. A baby must come to term, it must be birthed, because if a baby stays inside of the room for too long, right? Quite literally, it could kill you, right? And it could be very, very uncomfortable. And so that's how I see ideas. It's like those ideas that have impregnated me, those ideas that have stayed with me, those ideas that keep speaking to me, those are the ones that I know I must move forward with. And then once that happens and I realize it, then I get into the typical, now I'm outlining. right? Now I'm watching films that might have a similar sort of thematic structure to what I think I want to create. And I'm trying to figure out, well, what are these directors doing? What are these creators doing that made this thing actually work so well? Or not, right? Sometimes I think watching bad movies teaches you the same as watching good ones, right?
Well, that tees on my next question, because we always ask at the end of an episode, what was the gateway drug? The film or documentary or piece of fiction or literature that sparked something in you that said, this is the world that I want to go into. This is the world that's driving me to want to be a filmmaker. Is there a particular project or a particular film or story that is that for you?
Yeah, I remember it vividly. I was 11 years old, 1991. John Singleton releases Boyz in the
Boyz in
Hood.
the Hood, hell yeah.
And that movie changed me in a significant way. One, because during that time, I was living in San Antonio, and San Antonio was like the drive-by capital of Texas.
Wow.
So a lot of the things that we're seeing in Boyz in the Hood that John Singleton explored in that film, I was living through those things. I was in the middle of some of that stuff, right? And the way in which he humanized those characters, right? Yep, they come from a violent neighborhood. Yep, Ice Cube, dope boy, he's a corner boy probably, right? Yep, he's a gang, right? All of those things. Yet there's a human story that I think John Singleton was able to tap into about the why, right? And the social injustice that creates these environments that these individuals find themselves in, right? Nobody wants to live in a neighborhood that's violent. Nobody wants to just be on a corner selling dope. That's not a thing that I don't think anybody desires, but they do these things out of necessity because they know no other way, right? And I think what John Singleton did in that film is he really showed those individuals with humanity, with dimension, with contradiction. And I was like, I want to do this because guess what? I know these guys. These are my god brothers. And I know they're not just inherently bad people. Yeah, they were the gang bangers where I live. They were doing all that. But you knew that deep down inside there was a desire to do something more, but they didn't know how to do the more. And so when I saw that, I was like, I want to make things that wrestle with me the same way. I want to make things that people wrestle with the same way that I wrestled with Boyz in the Hood and be impacted in the same way that I was impacted. And so I think for me, if you ask me, when did Yaki become a filmmaker? He was 11, he watched Boyz in the Hood, and he knew from that moment on that this is what he was going to do with the rest of his life.
I love that. That's a perfect answer. That film is deeply impactful to me too. I was in 10th grade and my world history teacher pulled us aside at the end of the class and he said, you have to go see this film. I did not grow up in a community that was reflected in that film, and yet the humanity of that film totally spoke to me as a 15-year-old.
And that's the thing that I think he did so well, is he invited people into the homes of these individuals who had never been in those homes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
My brother?
You got Cash App? Or
No, I don't.
just cash?
Yeah.
Let me see if I even have a 20 on me. Hold on.
Right.
Bass
I may not.
Reeves rides again.
1838 to 1910.
No, I don't.
Tell you what, I got you.
I'll Cash App you.
Sure.
I tightened them up for you.
It looks good. Thank you. This is amazing.
Brother. I'm glad it's going to a home.
It's great.
They're like my babies, you know what I mean? And somebody, you know, this artist told me one time, he goes, every art you make is for somebody in the universe. You just got to get that person to that piece of art. Thank you, Papa. God bless you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Remind us your name again.
Marshall Fabella.
Marshall Fabella. And are you on social media at all? Is there a way to tag you?
I'm on Facebook. That's about it, but hardly. I just use it to check people's birthdays.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, so I
I think
just
I'm
bought this
trying to
phone
get,
from this guy.
on some of that stuff.
Somebody in Bass Reeves.
See if I can show some of my stuff. I do well here, though. I do.
Nice.
But thank you, fellas, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, y'all have a great day, man.
All right, you too.
All right.
Thank you.
What is some advice you have for an emerging filmmaker? I mean, look, you're an educator. You've got students, young and probably some old, in your classrooms every day. So I know you've got a lot to share and you've done a lot of this. But if you had to boil your advice down to just a single kind of nugget that we could learn from, what would it be?
In the words of Nike, just do it. Right?
You're not the first to say that. I have to tell you, it's funny. We've been doing this podcast a little over a year. When we asked that question, we've probably asked 70% of the people on these walks, that exact question. And I don't mean to make light of the advice.
No.
What I mean to say is this is the advice, right? This is what it takes. You've got to commit. You've got to just...
And you got to like, even me, I'm making short films almost every year at this point.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not making any money off of these films. They might not all be getting into film festivals, but the reason I'm doing it is because what I'm continuing to do is strengthen my filmmaking.
Yeah.
I'm working my creative muscle.
Get reps in.
Yeah, you have to get your reps in because it teaches you. I tell my students all the time, if you go into a project and you're not afraid, I'm not sure if that's the project you should be doing. Any project that I go into, there's a certain level of fear that comes over me. Why? Because I am pushing myself creatively. I'm experimenting with form in a new way. I mean, Angel's watching over me. I've never really done anything quite like that before.
It's dramatic. It's surreal. It's a documentary.
It's all the things.
The editing is on point. I've noticed in the credits of some of your work, you work with an emerging filmmaker that I've been aware of. And I met him once briefly when I was a speaker at UT, and I was impressed by him, a young man named Creighton Gerst.
Oh, yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah.
He was an MFA student of mine. He just graduated, actually.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing is the way Creighton and I first worked together was on a Revelator project.
Okay.
So
Started
I did
a commercial?
Yeah, I did a spec for Nike. And Creighton is kind of like the Super 8 guy. Right? He shoots a lot of Super 8.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted this commercial to have this almost vintage feel to it. And so I was like, well, I want to do some Super 8. And at first I was just like, well, why don't you just come out and do the Super 8 and we'll hire another DP? But then after we really talked about our vision, his vision, what he could bring to the project, I was like, well, why don't you just shoot the whole thing? And so he ends up shooting the whole thing on Super 8, which I thought was great. And I was like, we worked very well together. And then a few months later, I was directing a short film called The Ohio, Texas Remix.
Yes.
And Creighton came on board. I brought him on to shoot it. We've been shooting it ever since. He also shot Angels Watching Over Me.
Okay, I was wondering because the director's cut I saw of Angels had no credits.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with the edit, and I was impressed with the way it was shot. Who's the editor on that?
That's me.
Nice work. Nice work.
And I have to say, it wasn't necessarily by choice. It was a necessity. I had 2 editors that had to drop out because they got other jobs.
Right.
And so I ended up basically saying, you know what, Yaki, you need to pull out the Adobe Premiere. You need to figure out how to use it again because I hadn't edited anything since 2020.
Okay.
And I was like, let me do it. And I think, I'm impressed by the editing.
Just do it. Just do it. Let's head across the street here one more time. We're going to revisit our friends here in the mural.
All right.
And we'll wrap it up. I'll ask you...
And also, let me say
Please.
something else to these
Please.
filmmakers. Like, also, don't let fear of failure stop you, right?
Say more on
Because
that.
this is such a difficult career path. You might not make any money for a long time. You might not get the recognition that you think you deserve for a while. Your family might say, what the hell are you doing? You're never gonna make any money doing this. But for me, it's like, who cares, right? It's like, if this is something that you really, really are passionate about and you wanna do, don't let the naysayers stop you, but also don't let your own fear self-sabotage you, right? Yes, you made the film and nobody watched it, that's fine. Make the next one, and then make the one after that. And eventually, if you continue to do that, you will see some success. I think a lot of people don't find success, not because they're not talented, but because they give up.
Yeah.
So don't give up. Yeah.
I love that. Dream collaborator. Who out there... You know, and this could be alive or dead. You know, John Singleton, rest in peace. It could be a dream collaborator. Could be old Bass Reeves here. Who do you have in mind as a dream collaborator?
Dream collaborator. That's a hard question. I want to collaborate with, man.
It's okay if you want to say me.
Well, we already doing this. So
Okay, there we go.
the dream has been realized.
That's right.
I immediately start to think of music for some reason.
Okay.
And I would love to work with Max Richter,
Oh, yeah.
whose music I completely love. Chris Bowers, black composer who's done some amazing work on like When They See. I think he did When They See Us for Ava DuVernay and has done some other things. I think he won an Emmy. But Chris Bowers, because I listen to a lot of music scores,
Yeah.
and they're the things that inspire me. It would probably be composers that I would want to work with, right? Although I've been working with the same cinematographers for a while and love their work, I would love to work with somebody like Bradford Young, for example, whose work I've been watching for the last 20 years. And I have really, really appreciated the way in which he approaches cinema more broadly, but also the way in which he approaches cinema when he is documenting Black life and Black people, the way in which he lights them. One of my dream collaborators was Ernest Dickerson, and I got to shadow him on a show called The Deuce
Yeah.
about 10 years ago. I was sitting there one day, we were waiting for a shot to be set up, and he was drawing. I was like, what is he doing? I'm thinking he's just doodling. And he pulls out this very intricate storyboard that he drew in a matter of 10 minutes. And it looked just like the room. He knew where he wanted the people to. I mean, it was amazing. I can't draw like that. The honor of being his presence. I think, again, it changed me. And also, it made me think about directing TV in a very, very different way.
Yeah.
Because of the gentle way in which he approaches a set, how collaborative he is, how he knows what he wants, yet he's going to make sure that he's not being pushy, and he's going to listen to other people's ideas because maybe somebody's idea is better than his own.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always prided myself in doing. But I think working with him in some ways cemented that way of working for me. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Let's take one more look at this mural here. We started out by talking about cycles of resilience. I missed this the first time we were looking at it.
Yeah.
But we got a little teamwork here.
Yep.
I don't know if this is meant to be a 3-wheeled bicycle or they're just doing a full swap at the Masons over your shoulder.
Yep.
I'm not so sure about that. Those guys have done plenty of damage. And then you got these 3 gentlemen. When you said you were thinking about music, I don't blame you looking at the spirit of what's happening here.
Yeah, man.
And then this lady belting it out.
And it's so interesting. I'm going to talk about the Masons for a second. There have been some damaging things. I will say there's a sector of Black Masons, and almost like any fraternity or sorority, they did a lot of good in the community, in the Black community per se. Fraternities, the sororities, even the HBCUs, the churches, they were the only thing that we had. And they are the things that I think kept us afloat. They taught us about financial literacy. They educated us. They taught us how to grow our own food if we didn't know how to do those things. They taught us how to survive in a world where we were actually never meant to survive. This mural just overall, I think, speaks to that type of survival and the ways in which as a community, we came together in order to survive, again, a lot of the violence that was wielded against us. But without these people, without this community, I think there's a lot of like Black history that we just would not know. You know?
I think if you had to go through the transcripts of now almost 60 episodes of DocWalks, the number one word you would hear is community.
Yeah.
The way that you've engaged with the community through storytelling that engages Black audiences and deals with both Black history and present tense stories of Black life. You are a substantial like pillar in the filmmaking community, certainly here.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so. Like you're showing people like Creighton.
He said it and I didn't.
And you're giving access to people like me. And it's just like I said a moment ago with Boyz in the Hood. I didn't grow up in that world, and I may not be number 1 on the list of people that John Singleton was trying to talk to, but I hope I was number 3 or number 4 because he really did talk to me. And he gave me access and shared with me something that I didn't see around me, and yet I still saw myself in those characters.
Yeah, it's a Black film, obviously, but I do think John was making the film for his community, for us, but I also think he was making it for folks like you, because until you see images like that on screen, you have these very stereotypical ideas of who a person is, what their environment is like. I mean, even think about going back to my God brothers. It's like, I knew those guys as human beings. I saw their vulnerabilities. I saw how they masked those vulnerabilities with gun violence, with fighting, with all the things. But deep down inside, they were human. And I think when you're from the outside looking in, you don't see them as human. And I think what John Singleton was attempting to do was to paint a very humanistic portrait of a community that had been vilified for years and years and years. And I think he did a great job at doing that.
Humanism is, I think, to me, what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. The compliment I was just paying you is that you are a part of that continuum. You've given people access into your insight, your perspective, and through this walk, we've grown the community of DocWalks, and certainly my spirit is full. I'm glad you're taking home this Bass Reeves.
I am. It's an amazing, amazing painting that this guy did. I can't wait to find a home for it. I collect art, so I got to figure out where I'm going to put this.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up, I guess.
All right.
Anything we didn't get into? Anything we should have talked about?
Nah.
All right.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we did, we'll save it for the sequel.
Let's do it.
All right.
I love this. We should do it again.
Yaki, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, I've just kind of wandered into the street.
You're going to get us run over.
You know, I believe we both put out enough aura to tell the drivers of the world we're worth
There you go.
we're worth a hesitation. We're worth a pause. Yaki Smith, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And with that, let's talk about what happens next time on DocWalks.
Next time on DocWalks, I walk solo with Lauren Huff. She's an essayist and memoirist, not a filmmaker, at least not yet, although she does write nonfiction. And her first book was a New York Times bestseller. It was co-narrated as an audiobook by Kate Blanchett, and it was called Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing. Her new book, Monster of a Land, On the Road in Search of Modern America, came out the week that we recorded our episode. It's a fantastic conversation, and I think you're really going to love Lauren Huff. So stay tuned for next week's episode of DocWalks.
DocWalks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley. With help from our co-producer Dayton Thompson and editing by Riley Church. Follow us at DocWalks Pod on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn.